in to Take Me Off Speaker, the podcast where wild adulting stories meets the lessons we barely learned. It's messy, it's real, and it probably should have stayed in the group chat. Today we have a special episode. We're doing this one for the mothers. They birthed us, they raised us, they nagged us, and they love us. Today we have a very special guest. A mother, the mother, my mother. Mommy, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Navik Anderson Brown. I am the mother of 4. I have about 30 years of experience as a mother, so I consider myself an expert, and I'm happy to be here today.
So today we're going to be talking about generational curses, cursing out your loved ones, your matriarchal figures specifically, not cursing them out.
That might say we
Fallouts. Okay,
Okay.
fallouts with moms and whatnot. But I like to start off every episode with a would you rather,
Okay.
or a would you do this? I guess a dilemma. Would you do a year in jail for Nana?
It depends. Am I getting paid? Is there like
Let's
financial?
do both, right? So if you're not getting paid, it's a white collar crime.
Okay.
Okay, so white collar crime that they're accusing Nana of.
Okay.
You have to do a year.
All right.
So it's not like you're not in like a mass security. You're not like in a maximum security type of.
But she did the crime. I'm just going to do the time for her.
We're not gonna say whether she did or not didn't. You know, right? We don't know that.
Okay.
Okay, would you do it?
No.
You would do a year?
No.
For your mother?
No.
Okay, say she did the crime. It's a white collar crime.
Mm-hmm.
So a year in jail.
Right.
Actually, for Nana, it's probably like 10 years.
Okay.
But if you go in there instead, then it's 1 year.
But she did the crime.
Yeah.
She gonna have to do the time.
10 years.
She the one that chose to do that.
Okay. Now, it's a heinous crime,
Okay.
right?
Uh-huh.
Felony, obviously.
All right.
I don't know. We're not going to say it's a violent one.
Okay.
But it's like theft or murder. Could be any one of those,
Okay,
right? It's
okay.
full time. It's like a life sentence for your mother to go.
Murder is a
Wait.
violent crime.
No, but you don't. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I don't know if it's just one of those.
Okay.
What
Okay.
do you call
Yeah.
those? Like not a class 3, but you know what I mean? Like
It's a serious crime.
yeah, serious crime.
Okay. Okay.
Because life is on the line. It's
Okay.
like 25 to life for this one, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if you go, and if she goes, it's 25 to life. If you go, it's 1 year,
Mm-hmm.
and you get 10 mil.
I'm there.
That's terrible.
It's true.
You need the money to be able to do it.
Yes. Yes. Jail time is not for the weak. I am scary. I am fluffy. You know they like big girls.
No.
I'm not gonna be able to.
What changed? The money is really
Absolutely.
a white collar though. I feel like I've never been to jail. I've never
Let's
been to
not
prison.
play like money is not a motivating factor.
But see, if it's a year, you don't go to prison for a year, right? It's just jail. A year, another.
I,
Do people go to prison if it's just
I
a
don't
year?
know, Shawshank.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, no.
Interesting.
Okay.
Okay.
Would you go to jail for me?
I'm gonna put your business out. Your business out there. But if you did the crime,
Right.
if you did the crime,
If I did the crime.
and if it's a white collar one, I would do it.
Okay.
I could do a white collar for a year.
Okay. For free.
Probably not.
What
The more I'm thinking about it, like, what am I getting out of this?
am
when
I
get
getting
out?
out of
Nothing?
this? And you did the
Just
crime.
pure love. But you have multiple children, so like I would be like, you got the oldest, like you come down the line first. If they say no, then you come to me, and then I would probably still say no because you have one more after me.
Okay.
If it was a heinous crime and you had to go to like a
Supermax.
prison for 25, I could do it for you. Just because the 25 alone, I wouldn't let you be in jail for 25
Right,
life.
right.
It didn't have to be the money, but the money being there is a good incentive, and so
Right.
I would probably would.
Okay.
It's great. What do you think your mother would say?
She would definitely
Not
not go.
I'm glad you know your mom.
She don't even want you to call her if you went in there.
I'm glad. Okay. Well, let's segue. Okay. Taking bullets for your mom, right? How do I want to start this? Is there anything about your mother or your relationship with your mom, that's something that you want to break away from, like generational curse wise? Is there anything that you wanted to change about you? Or not change about you, but change about like how you went about having your children.
I tell you, one of my biggest things has been the open communication. I didn't really have that with my mom, and not that she wasn't loving and supportive and all of those good things. I was just raised to know that certain things weren't a part of the discussion or conversation that I would be able to have with my mother. And with my children, I knew I wanted you all to be able to talk to me about anything, whether it made me uncomfortable or angry or any of those things. I just knew I wanted our communication to be different than the communication that I had with my mom.
Was there like, were you raised to like beliefs a certain way when it comes to communicating with your mom? Or like were you taught that you were supposed to communicate a certain way?
Yes, absolutely. Well, you know, being raised as a Jehovah's Witness, there were lines of respect that were put into place. And as I have gotten older, I think it was less respect and more of fitting into those parameters of what was respectable. For example, like in a sex conversation, not being able to really have that conversation. Our sex conversation was you wait till marriage, where being realistic as your mother, it was, hey, if you're having these things, then we need to look into, you know, birth control and those type of things. That type of difference was the way our conversations went.
Okay. So, is that the only thing?
What, that I wish I would have done different?
Or no, that you think it's like a generational curse? Because generational is like, okay, so Nana wasn't communicating with Grandma Pearlie like that either.
And they weren't. they weren't having those conversations. Yeah, no.
And you think you were the break in that?
Absolutely.
I think it was just having me as a daughter that did it.
Wow. Okay. No, because like I said, I made that decision when I was having children, that I knew I wanted to talk about stuff. It didn't start with you. It started with Amanis and talking to him about sex and him liking girls and stuff like that. So it wasn't that, and I can guarantee that the conversation with my mom was never initiated by my mom. Like sometimes I'll be like, it's too much when I be asking questions and stuff, but I just feel like, okay, if I ask it or if I initiate it, y'all will feel more comfortable because I'm not being like, oh my God, don't say that stuff to me. And that was never initiated by my mom. It was just like, if I had a question about something, again, not knocking it, I am.
If you had a question about it, so it was open. You just didn't feel comfortable enough to.
Because it was made to be like, there's no room for those questions because you shouldn't even be thinking about that until you're ready for marriage.
So was it not open, or was it just something that your parents were like, okay, no, you're not doing it, so we're not. Of course, if we told you, we raised you to be not doing it, do we have, what I mean? Is there?
But yes, there should still be some open because we're all.
So then you come to her with your questions, right?
But I didn't feel comfortable coming to her with my questions.
Because you weren't supposed to be doing it in the first place. Fast self. That's what it was.
Listen, but see, and that's what I'm saying about the communication. If it was more open, I still would have felt comfortable, even if I was going against what they wanted from me. Just the curiousness of it, instead of looking to my peers or going out there and doing things that were dangerous for that, I would be able to go to, hey mama, I know what you said, but I'm having these feelings, and it be more than, well, the scriptures say that you should do that. Some real deal. No, you shouldn't.
Well, see, because when you say that, it's like you were open with us. You're very open, very comfortable coming to you with things, but there's still things you want to keep from your parents that you're doing because you know you're not supposed to be doing it.
No, I get that part, but I think, especially as a girl child, there are just certain things you should prepare your daughters for, regardless of your religious stance, your personal moral stances. There are things that you should be aware of to be on the lookout for because of what you just said. Because of the fact there may be things that are being done that they'll never tell you or that you'll be sneaking, but you'll have that information. You'll know that, okay, if I'm sneaking this, I need to be protected because this can lead to STDs or babies or any of those things.
I can see where you're coming from, but like I said, you were open, and there were still things where I was like, I'm not telling my mama that.
Absolutely.
No, I mean, now that I'm older, at a younger age, yeah. Now that I'm older, obviously there's no filter now because I'm grown and I'm accountable for my own actions. But when you're young and you're like, Dad, your actions, your parents are technically still accountable for your actions before 18, right?
But I never made you feel like, you may have kept it from me, because you were afraid of my emotional response, but you were never afraid of like telling me because it would possibly mean a separation of our relationship.
Oh yeah.
Where for me, it was a possibility of a separation of our relationship.
I can see how that would traumatize a child into not talking about it. Yeah, I can see that. Well, walk me through like the exact moment where you thought, like, was there an event in your life where you were like, oh, okay, I don't want to do like this. I don't want to be this way for my children. Was there an exact moment that maybe you tried to go tell Nana something and their response wasn't well receptive to what you were saying, or it was just so completely left of what you wanted it to be that you were like, I'll never do this for my children?
One of my biggest ones, and I love you, Mommy, this is not a personal attack on you, was not so much in communication, but a time where I had a friend who had accused me of doing something, and Nana's belief was to apologize. If the person felt wronged, then you should apologize. You be the bigger person. And long-term trauma for being the bigger person and accepting things regardless of how they made me feel and those type of things. And I remember in that moment being like, when I am grown, I'll never make my kids apologize. Okay. They'll never have to say I'm sorry. I mean, you know what I'm saying. I had to grow into it. I just know that I didn't want y'all to have that kind of feeling. Now, there's been times where I've made you apologize because you was dead ass wrong.
No. There were also times where we had to apologize. We weren't dead wrong, or we had to suck it up and do that. So, of course, everybody has a plan going into parenthood and what you want to do for your children. And learned behaviors are not as easy to break.
Correct.
And so, of course, there were moments where we were like, of course, everybody does that. We're all human at the end of the day, and it's not like you've been parenting before to be able to know.
Didn't know.
Yeah. Okay, well, wow, I like this one. How did Nana react, right? Like, obviously, she can tell that there is a difference between how you communicate with us, because you'll go talk to Nana about something that we talked about or anything like that. Was there any... Well, you never talked to... Okay. So 2 different questions. Okay. One, have you ever talked to Nana about, like, how you don't like how she's communicated with you when you were younger?
Yes.
Or the closed-off communication you felt?
Yes.
What was her reaction
to
that?
Nana's view on that was she always felt that she was open, that the lines of communications were open, but she's also stated to me that she wished she would have talked more, but because of her faith in me, her faith in me, being comfortable enough to talk to her, and that I didn't.
That's what I was going to say too.
That she was like, well, you could have talked to me more and that type of thing. And I was like, well, I just didn't feel comfortable because of all of the other things that had been set in place for me. And like I said, it goes back to having mine is so early. My oldest so early that a lot of conversation missed out and put me in that situation early on because there was conversations that I should have been having. She should have been having with me that could have kind of helped those things to happen differently.
And just to touch on that before I lose this thought, I was thinking that, like, okay, what you're telling me is that you felt like she should have been the one to come to you more, and she's saying she felt like you should come to her more, which is what I thought too, because what you were saying was like, you made it so that we were comfortable enough to come to you,
right?
But you were going to ask first too,
right?
Okay, Nana might not just have, thought about it like that. And of course, like I said, some things you're going to bring to your parent more so than others.
Right. Now, I'm not talking about going into vivid detail about things.
But what child's going to be like, hey, Mom, I'm interested in having, well, I don't know. That just feels weird to me. I don't know any of friends. I don't know anybody. Not that it's not a thing. But I've never heard of anybody going up and be like, hey, Mom, I want to have sex now. So.
But, and here's another thing that you learn as a parent, especially when you get to that age, you know what you felt at 15 and 16.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? To be like, okay, maybe I should go in and
maybe your mama want one of those. Maybe your mama want one of those.
I'm not going to tell my mama's business.
Your mama watch.
I'm not going to tell my mama's business, but,
okay. Everybody's young and dumb.
Cut this part out.
No, I'm not cutting it out. I know what you're saying. I know what you're gonna say. Don't cut it out. I'm not gonna cut it out. Okay, all right. How does she react to how you communicate with us? Because obviously it's different.
Oh, she hates it.
Oh yeah.
She hated it. She thought it was disrespectful. She thought, because you all were free to say certain things, that she was like, I'd knock your head off your shoulders if you talk to me like that. And for me, not that I was like no hippie mama, because I laid somebody down too, but I just felt like certain things didn't bother me. I didn't feel like it was an attack on my motherhood or you all were being out of place, and that I said certain things. Certain things didn't bother me. So, but for her, it was just like, no, you don't talk to your mom like that. You don't say things to your mom like that. Certain things are for your friends. And even though I say on a regular basis, I'm not one of your little friends, she felt like that conversations were too friendly. So
there were several times where you come to me and say like, I feel like I'm a bad mom, and I knew it was Nana's influence, or maybe no, because your friends are like that. Maybe the ones that I can think of, and I'm talking about Aunt Candace at this point. No, I don't think she was like that, but there were times where you would come to me and be like, I feel like a bad mom because like we would curse in front of you, or when we were all smoking together, and you would be like, and I don't feel like other moms are doing this. And I'm like, it's some really bad moms out here for you to be trying to. We're alive and well, right?
Right.
You were with us for all of our lives, right? It's not
Right.
like this, you were on drugs or something like that. You weren't present or whatever. So I would just be like, no, this is how I see you as my mom.
Right.
Like
that is something I had to come to terms with, because as a mom, you will, if you have an active mom, at some point you're going to compare your mothering to the mothering that you had. So, no, it's going to happen. Don't worry about it. It's coming. Yeah, don't worry about it. It's coming. But, so, for me, it was in comparison. Like, you were not going to cuss in front of Nana. We still don't cuss in front of Nana. It's just the way it is. For me, I just see it as a word. Now, if y'all get carried away,
I always know what I'm like. I'll be like, all right, that was a lot.
Yeah. If you get carried away, I'll be like, slow down. But just in general, or you were talking about something, it's just a word. Like, it's a social construct. Who made it a bad word? It was just a way of you expressing yourself. Where my mama was like, your vocabulary is too small. You need to expand your vocabulary if you have to cuss. And I didn't see it that way. The same thing with the smoking thing. Like, it's a natural herb. I never saw it as like, come and do a line of coke with me. It wasn't like, and I just like, I hate to play
the lesser of two evils, but like we not shooting heroin together and stuff like that.
There was no messy things
Yeah.
going on or that type of thing. And I too was of the belief, you do it with me in this house, I feel better than you being out in the streets doing it somewhere else and something bad happened. And so come. I'm gonna do it. I don't know if y'all were aware of, you know, how much I was doing or whatever, but in my head I was like, I'm pretty sure they know. It's not like you can't smell, you know, marijuana or whatever. So why would it be a thing if they have gotten to this point to make those decisions?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that was a thing where I let y'all, you know, make those decisions for yourselves. Like, I don't know. I just wanted it to be different.
Mm-hmm.
The same way with the religious things. Like, I wanted you to be exposed to all the things and then you make the decision.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of found with myself that decisions were made for me,
Mm-hmm.
and then I wasn't able to keep those things up. I wasn't able to fulfill those things, and so then you feel like a failure or a disappointment and all that stuff. And I didn't want that for y'all. You choose what works for you because it's going to fulfill your life or make you happy. And if not, then you don't, and that's your choice.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just kind of how I took it.
I feel like now that we're getting older, I want to say we're forcing our grandparents, speaking specifically on Nana, because some stuff she's better with, some stuff she's not so much with, accepting that we are, right? That we're our own people and we have our own path. And, you know, just because they had a path set for us that they would have liked that we traveled on doesn't mean that we're going to stick to that. And I try to remain as open as possible. I force Nana to be open. I force myself to be open with Nana because, like I told you, you only get to do this once. You only get to live this life once. And I want to be as authentic and as true to who I am as possible in all that I do, because I want to be able to do more in life. I feel like when you don't accept who you are, it holds you back from doing a lot of things in life that you probably would regret later on. And because we only get to do this once, I don't want to have any regrets when it comes time for me to leave, right?
I try to be open in understanding for Nana. So Nana, different time, took on all those responsibilities for her other siblings and that type of stuff. So for her, she just saw it differently. Like, you do this path, you lead this way, this is going to be the key to you having a better life. And this is what I see, this is what I know, this is what I'm going to go. What has it been, about 3 years, 2-3 years, that I've just got to the point where I'm not making you all's decision personal. It's a hard thing. That's the
thing. That's what breaking generational curses is, right? Being able to, it's never easy, right? It's never comfortable. It's probably some of the most uncomfortable stuff because you have to start addressing situations as soon as they happen. And that usually comes in the form of like emotional responses. I rarely see people breaking generational curses and it not be a strong emotional reaction to it, like a logical, unless it's something you've been thinking about for a while. Well, no, because even then, once you realize a generational curse, I think in your teens and stuff, you start to realize it. And then in your 20s, I feel like you're really like, oh no, like I gotta stop this now because I don't want to do this. And so the thing about that is it's going to be uncomfortable for everybody involved, but it's one of those things where it's like ripping off a Band-Aid, right? Like that's the type of way you have to do it. You have to quit. It's going to be painful and we're just going to get through it. You're either going to get through it on the other side together or you're not. Either way, you have to find peace with the decision you're going to make.
That's your generation. I told you that I'd be so proud of you and how you go about it is because you are a rip it off. This is what it is. This is where we're going from here and that. Not so much me, definitely not her. I was the slow peel back while you're crying, and I'm still peeling. And Nana is just like, you get what I give you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And so when that generation lives like that, you don't feel like you should live like that too? Or like, oh, you're going to get what I give you then, right? Because some things you want to break as generational curses. That point of view, that old, I'm set in my ways thing, I start to adapt that. Okay, if you can't beat them, you join them. There are things that I'm not going to change about myself that I'm going to let you know I'm not going to change about myself. You can choose to accept it or not. I'm still going to do it,
Well, then that wouldn't be a curse. That would just be a part of your heredity.
No. I'm saying it's a part of you breaking out of that.
Oh, okay.
Breaking out of being like, oh, I have to
right,
do this to
fit into
people
yes,
or things like that.
Yes.
Interesting. Is there anything that you would do differently? Well, you didn't really have like a falling out with it or anything like that. You feel like your relationships are still the same. Is there anything you would do different about the way you communicate with Nana now, or like?
Well, I have changed how I communicate with Nana. For a long time, I held a lot of things in because I didn't want her to feel inadequate or to hurt her feelings. And I was like, well, there's a way for me to tell her these things without me hurting her feelings or without me. So I have changed my approach. If it's something that is really bothering me or I don't like the way that the conversation is going, I will stop her and be like, hey, one of our biggest ongoing things, even at this big old age that I am now, is I am your child, I am not a child.
Okay.
I have grandchildren of my own, so certain things you're not going to talk and you're not going to, say to me because I'm a grown lady. So, but being able to say that to her in a respectful manner, because she quick to pull out your mama card.
But see,
and
sometimes you'll say stuff and it comes across like you can't spare everybody's feelings. Right. And I had to learn that too, where it's like I would be filtering what I say, and my point wouldn't come across the way I want it to come across because I'm too busy thinking about if I'm hurting somebody's feelings. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you just gotta say what you gotta say.
But for me personally, I'm going to always filter with her. Okay. Because
it's all about the person and how they are.
Yeah. My love for her and knowing how she may see certain things, even if I didn't mean it a certain way, she may pick it up that way. So I have learned to navigate that conversation with her. Where with other people, they wouldn't get that. They wouldn't get, the filtered down version or whatever. They're going to get it raw and uncut. But with their grandmother, I'm always going to make sure that I'm walking that fine line because I know how she feels about things.
Okay. Say anything about like communicating with us that you would want to, like, if you could go back and change?
Sometimes I think maybe I shouldn't have been as open. Like me. Like maybe y'all got to see too much. And when I was going through the divorce, I was saying things, not necessarily talking bad about your father, but I was sharing so much information that you all should have never gotten, but I just was used to spilling all the stuff as it was happening for me. That part I would change, but not much else. I don't think I would change.
Okay. I think we'll segue there.
And then I realized that I cannot break generational curses if I'm still seeking approval from the generation that's cursed.
So with that being said, are you currently in the process of breaking generational curses?
I think so. I think I've broken curses with my own.
And do you feel like while that was going on, before that was going on, or even while that was going on, do you feel like there was a point where you were seeking validation?
Absolutely. I still do. I'm sure there's things that I could address and do differently, but because I am very motivated to have not just my mother, but my parents' approval, that there are things that I have omitted in our relationship and our communication in order to have that approval.
You know what they say that is?
What's that?
Your inner child. Your inner child seeking that validation.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're breaking generational curses, you can't do that motivated by the wants and the desires, even the needs of your inner child, because obviously you're no longer, that child anymore. And so if you truly want to break that and move forward from that you shouldn't be seeking validation. I myself deal with that. Not so much with you, but I think with like my dad and my dad's side of the family, there's a lot of like seeking validation to be able to break those curses and things like that. But the older I get, now that that frontal lobe is developed, I'm more so like, oh yeah, no, I can't live like this anymore, right? You can't do this, I don't have to do this, right? I don't need them to be like, yeah, it's okay for you to not like this, or it's okay for you to say these things, or you to feel this way or act this way. It's more so accepting who I am, right? Like wanting to be me and being more comfortable with validating myself and my own experiences, because I think that's what it is too. A lot of my childhood experiences, I wanted to be validated. You know what I mean? Like, okay, like this happened, this is traumatizing to me, and you understand that, right? You don't have to do that.
I sit in it on a regular basis. You know, we have this conversation. I have this thing about having to be right. And not just having to be right, but having to be right and you understanding that you're wrong.
Yeah.
And so that doesn't translate well as an adult, especially when people can be set in how they feel about things and that type of thing. And here I am, frustrated, upset, keep bringing the subject up, all those things just to get the validation of, I'm right. I need you to say that I'm right. Yeah, so I get you with that.
Mine is more so in the sense that where I have to earn a lot in my life. Like, of course you have to work hard to get what you want, but like,
you were rewarded for
earning.
But
it was more so things that I didn't have to earn.
Right.
Like I didn't have
You shouldn't have had to.
Yeah, I shouldn't have had to. Like I shouldn't have had to accept things that I didn't want to get the things that I needed. And I can't really think about what that looks like, but like, you know how Gilmo would just buy me some of the ugliest clothes and y'all would be like, just take it because, you know, it's clothes and stuff like that. That right there is being like, no, if I don't want it, I don't want it. I remember thinking that. Like,
I would have changed that, but from what I was there, you take these things, you say thank you, you know, you be grateful because other people, where it should have been, she don't want it, she don't want it.
And that's what and so then that turns into what I want to do for my children, right? Generationally, if my kids don't like the stuff that whoever is giving them, I want them to be like, I don't really like this.
Of course, they just gonna like everything they y'all give them.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And see, that's how people get their feelings.
Right.
And then it's like, all right, nah, like, you know, what would you know about? And there was a lot of that too. Like, what do you know about what you like and what you don't? I feel like you and me with like conscious thought. And I know
it's the way we were brought up, and that's how it is a generational curse because they were brought up like that. They didn't have much, so what they got, you know, you
make something happen.
You gonna make something happen.
And so then it becomes that you're ungrateful, and it's like you're a person, and you're entitled to have
feelings.
And anyway, that has turned into me needing validation for the certain things that I believe I have that I don't need. Right, like I can give those things to myself, or I don't need somebody to say like, yeah, okay, I'll give you this, or you're a good person, and I never needed any of that. And of course, I'm a human being, so I still kind of falter in that belief, and you know, understanding that and holding that true to my heart and setting that boundary where it's like, you don't have to do this. You don't have to work hard for this. You don't have to do this to get what you want. Or you don't have to say these things to get what you want and whatnot. But yeah, I think we all kind of struggle with that. Let me know in the comments if you guys feel like you what's the past tense of seek? Suck it. You suck out. What's the word? Sought out. Oh my goodness. Let me know in the comments if you sought out your parents or a guardian or a paternal figure. If you sought out their validation and how that has affected you trying to break your generational curses and so on and so forth. So with that, we can move on to our last segment of the day. What I'm going to do is we're going to play a little game. We have these so-called family curses. I don't want to say family curses, but we have family curses, right? But are they fake? Are they curses? I'm going to give you a few statements. And then you'll tell me if you think it's a curse or like a consequence, okay?
Okay.
So if I say something like, oh, everybody's in our family's broke, would you say that's a curse or is that a consequence?
That's systemic racism.
All right, thank you. But not an answer. I need a consequence, okay?
I think it's a curse.
No, that's not. This is an example. We're not all in our family broke.
Okay. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
I would
what you
think
would
that
say,
would
yeah,
be
okay.
a curse.
Wow. What is something that we get a lot in our family that I think a lot of people in our family. Mark said this the other day, right? That we're indecisive, or what did he say? That we can't stick to one thing.
Right.
Do you think that's a curse or do you think it's a consequence? Because he said specifically, Papa, you, and me.
Right. Well, in those lines, for you and I, it's a consequence of Papa.
That's a curse. That's a curse at that point.
And again, I don't see it as indecisive.
Okay, but no, the thing is,
okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
We are so talented.
Absolutely.
We're so talented as people that we like to spread our talents out. We're also curious people. We love to learn.
Right.
And we like to try new things. We're open.
Right.
Optimistic people for the most part. And so we like to spread our butter on the toast until it's thin. The toast of life until it's thin. So, would you say that's a curse or a consequence?
A curse.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wish we were more focused. I think sometimes the short term in which we work can lead to negative consequences for us because we are quick to move on to other things. So that would probably be a curse.
I say curse because it's a family thing. Obviously, we did name 3 people. That's 3 different generations. Once you pass one, to me it's a curse, right?
Right.
And so not just that, but that I feel accomplished. Once I feel accomplished, I move on.
Yeah, it's time to go.
I don't understand what more
Can't
is there
do
for me
it.
to conquer, and I'm a conqueror.
Can't do it.
At the end of the day.
And then I think too, what I have found in my earlier age is that we're neurospicy. And for Papa, it was definitely not diagnosed that way. Papa was like, was dyslexic. He needed his glasses, all those things. And it was, oh, you're slow. But he was really smart, really talented in writing poetry and all of those things. And when those things got addressed, it just clicked in for him. And I think not having a word or symptoms to pinpoint the neurodiversity that we feel. For us, in our brain, it makes complete sense. So that's why I say I have a hard time saying it's a curse. We are just wired differently. So for us, that is fulfilling.
Okay, but I think you're thinking curse in the wrong sense. Not curse like...
Curse is negative.
I mean, yeah, but not in the sense that, like, it's something that can't be broken. Because you, obviously...
Yeah, but it's still a negative. And I'm not going to put negativity on that part of it. Now, we got stuff.
Yeah.
But on that thing specifically, I don't think that. I think we all are a bit neurospicy and it just fits us.
I'm trying to think of something else that, like, our family is, like, really, like, all of us share this trait. We're not all emotional. There are some...
Who?
A lot of this family is emotional.
All of this family is emotional.
Very much so.
Very much so.
When Ma and Daddy act like they're not...
Let me tell you something about that. Just because
it doesn't show in the way that it shows with us
does not mean that it's not that. I hate when that comes like, oh, well, I'm not emotional and you're emotional. Okay, I'm emotional because I scream and I cry. You're emotional because you shut down. And that's the same thing because those emotions are moving you not to be able to communicate or have that conversation. You're emotional too.
Yeah, okay. You think that... I don't think... No, okay. Our family being over emotional, curse or consequence?
Consequence.
In what way?
we have not learned to regulate it, because
Oh,
that's a learned behavior that you can regulate, that you can control. You can learn how to, practice breathing and ways to get your way down. So I think the fact that it is visibly, openly emotional is that.
Yeah. So, dang, I would have to agree then, because that is like a learned, being able to control your emotions is a learned thing. Nobody in the family has learned it.
No, I say it all the time. I'm very open in being emotionally immature, and that will cause me to argue things that I don't have to argue. That will cause me to react very strongly to things that may not need that strong of a reaction. I work on it, just like, I encourage you all to work on it too, but it is definitely, it's an ongoing battle. It's not just something that you learn and then it goes, for everything. Different situations with different emotions calls for different ways to regulate that, and that's a hard thing to do, and you won't always be successful in that. So that's why I say it's a consequence.
It's hard growing up being taught like to express yourself to a certain extent, and then
Have to pull that back.
Be an adult, realizing when you become an adult, all right, you still want to be true to you, right? You still want to express yourself, but there are certain ways to do that. Especially with the consequence being like jail time or like losing your job or something like that.
Right.
The stakes get a little higher. You start to learn very quickly, like, okay,
I'm gonna
rein it in. Bite your tongue. Call your mom on your lunch break.
Right.
You can attest to that.
Right.
But yeah, okay, great. And so let's just wrap it up. Lessons learned. Lessons learned from generational curses, or something you want the viewers to take away when it comes to breaking generational curses or crossing that line with
You have to make the decision for yourself. For certain generational curses, you cannot fault the person that brought that into that, because you have to think back from them. You just take it from your point and build and do better and learn. Like I said, I could never blame my mom for that, because she was assured in how she was raising me, and so that's how that was. I can only take it from my point and what I want to do with my children, and how those things, some things she may not even have viewed as a generational curse for me to have to break something. So faulting her, I will never fault her for that. I will hold myself accountable before I fault her for something. So if it is a specific one, now there are some generational curses that absolutely fall on the shoulders of the person that brought it into there. But for certain ones, you letting go of the person that brought that curse into there to just focus on this instead of focusing on the blame will help you break that curse quicker than trying to get them to see it or accept it and try to change them. Start with you and the curses you want to break first.
Okay. Here's the thing. Breaking generational curses isn't always like a hallmark moment, right? It's messy, can be lonely, but at the end of the day, it's always going to be a powerful thing. And you don't owe tradition your peace, right? Or what you're used to. You don't owe that your what's the word I'm looking for? Not state of mind. You don't owe that your state of peace, right? And the things that broke the people before you, you don't owe it. You don't have to carry those things, right? And so just always think about that and how you want to move forward with your life. At the end of the day, we're all adults. You're going to do what you want to do. Just remember that whatever you say, we can't be held accountable for, right? So Be an adult. Handle your situations the way you should. Thank you for coming today. Thank you for tuning in to Take Me Off Speaker. I've been your host, Anika Jackson. We drop episodes every Sunday. You can like the video, share, subscribe. Follow us on all platforms at TMOS, the podcast. And remember, before you say what you need to say, before you get that off your chest, before you stand on business, make sure you take me off speaker. Bye, y'all.